Greetings, everyone. This is the International Council for Small Business. My name is Ayman Tarabishi. I am Deputy Chair of the Department of Management at the George Washington University School of Business. I'm also the ICSB Executive Director. I am delighted to announce the next ICSB Exchange webinar with the title of Social Entrepreneurship versus Humane Entrepreneurship, a discussion. I am delighted, actually very delighted, extremely delighted to introduce the three panelists here. And let me start first with Dr. Roberto Parente, is a professor of entrepreneurship and innovation at the University of Salerno, Italy. He's also president of the Master Course in Management and Social Innovation. He's the founder and director of Lisa Lab, a research center whose main topic is on technology transfer and academic entrepreneurship. And I can go on, but he's very worldwide known. He's a great partner and supporter of ICSB. Professor Roberto, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome to everyone. I would say good evening or good morning or good afternoon. It depends on which part of the globe you are, but say hello to everyone.
The next panelist is Professor Antonio Botti. He's an associate professor of management at the University of Salerno as well. He is a member of several committees. In particular, he is the associate editor for the Journal for Small Business Management and also associate editor for the Journal of the International Council for Small Business, JICSB. Professor Antonio, ciao, come stai?
Many greetings to everyone.
Wonderful, thank you. And finally, it's Professor Massimiliano Vesci, an associate professor in management at the University of Salerno, Italy. His research interests focuses on entrepreneurship, humane entrepreneurship, public management, service management, and value co-creation in the areas of tourism, technology, and innovation, and education. And he's also an associate editor at the JSPM Journal. The topic today is a very fascinating topic. It builds off on a conference that we just recently had online, in which the discussion moved towards the similarities and the differences between social entrepreneurship versus humane entrepreneurship. And what we wanted to do in this webinar is to start to have this discussion. But we'll start with Professor Parente discussing the topic itself of humane entrepreneurship. Professor Parente, greetings, and the floor is yours. You muted yourself, Professor Parente. Unmute yourself. Hold on, Professor Parente.
Okay, can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. So again, greetings to everyone. I have the role to break the ice in in any way, and just to set the frame of the concept of humane entrepreneurship that will be the main subject of this meeting, the meeting tonight, at least in Italy tonight. So the concept of humane entrepreneurship is a concept that was started to be discussed in a group of friends. Let me say this as at the very first beginning of our talk. It was a concept that started to emerge time by time in discussion between a group of friends, Ayman, of course, Massimiliano, Antonio, and of course, our Korean friends, Professor Ki-Chan Kim, and this team from Korea. We start to discuss about this issue in the occasion of various, many forums and meetings that we have had at the UN, at United Nations, and ICSB has a long-term cooperation with the UN, especially the section that is in charge of Sustainable Development Goals into UN with Chantelin and other friends there. And we start to observe cases of firms that are able to be quite successful, and from the financial and competitive and the innovation, from the innovation point of view, and at the same time yet compliant with the SDG philosophy. This was, let me say, the starting point of our discussion and observation, looking for cases in our countries, in Italy, in Europe, in Asia, of course, and in USA, about this kind of specific kind of company, especially in the small business area and micro and small business area of companies were able to be very effective from various point of view, including the performance in the field of sustainability, social and environmental sustainability. And then time by time, we try to develop and to express better our discovery, our research that was mostly case-based. And at the end, we framed this concept of humane entrepreneurship that was, let me say, firmly grounded into the theory of entrepreneurial orientation. For us, humane entrepreneurship, and we wrote, of course, a couple of papers that have been published in JICSB and at my group and the group of Professor Kishan and Emanuel Tarish, and we start to conceive this concept of humane entrepreneurship as a strategic posture of a firm. So firm level is our level of attention and of focusing on this concept. And in our view, humane entrepreneurship as a strategic posture is a strategic posture of a firm that is capable to run effectively three cycles. We call them of course, the basic cycles. This is the business cycle, and of course, this is the basic item. So a company that is capable applying innovation and capability to be innovative and competitive, to be quite successful on the market, to continue to have loyalty and attention from the client. So this is the basic cycle that it's, in my opinion, the basic concept that is behind the concept of entrepreneurial orientation made by Comin and Slevin, Dessel Lampkin. There is, of course, for the academician, there is a lot of there is a very strong and very foundative literature on this subject of entrepreneurial orientation. But our concept of human entrepreneurship is a little bit broader. So it's a strategic posture that is capable to bring together entrepreneurial orientation and then at the same time care for organization, and so the capability to be to involve people, to create decent job, to have a good organizational environment, to have people not as a labor force but as talent, as human capital. So the capability to be very effective from the organizational point of view, and then on the third level, to be socially active into their environment, to have a commitment toward local community, to be attentive to the welfare of the social community, to be very responsive to the green revolution, for example. So society commitment. So the society cycle is the third level. So in our opinion, human entrepreneurship is the right answer to ensure the care for firm, to ensure the surviving, and to for a company to stay viable, to stay successful in the long term. And of course, human entrepreneurship for us is a sort of course as a strategic dimension. So the idea is not only to have a company, a firm. Human entrepreneurship is a firm, an expression of a firm that is not only capable to be successful on these three levels, but is capable to make connection between these three levels and make one level capable to sustain the other. So the final goal of firms, long-term firm sustainability, is case by case, dictated by the capability of a company, of a specific company, to mix together and to find the right connection between the human capital, the orientation toward innovation, and the orientation toward society and to our local communities. So these are the basic ingredient of the concept. But then I will stop here my first part of presentation and give the words to Professor Antonio Botti, that will say something more about the context, the social context that gave the birth of this concept of human entrepreneurship. And then Massimiliano will be able to go a little bit more methodologically enter into detail of the theoretical foundation of human entrepreneurship, and maybe if we have time to say something about how to try to measure and to give specific dimension to human entrepreneurship orientation. So Antonio, please.
Thank you, Roberto. I share my slide. Okay, can you see the slide? Roberto, would you
Antonio,
confirm?
try again. Share the slide.
Yeah, can you see it?
No, we see you only. So try again.
Okay. Now, can you see the slide?
Excellent.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now I want at the starting point, and I want to come back to two seminal articles, two famous articles by Henry Mintzberg and Herbert Simons, in which they affirm how we live now in a world dominated by organization. So if we live in a world dominated by organization, and if the idea of Simon and Mintzberg is correct, probably we cannot be longer look at the economic system with the eye of the reductionist vision. And we need to ask ourselves how organization take decision and what affect their decision. At this point, I want to focus my attention on strategic decision as a human intervention orientation, how Massimiliano will explain in a few minutes, is a strategic posture. So the first, I want to point my attention on the context. Well, the context affects decision, and this position is commonly accepted in business economic studies, but probably this point is always true. Last February, it was in Italy, Daniel Dennett. Daniel Dennett is one of the greatest American philosophers and scientists, and he stated a clear position. Context influence our action, and behaviors change based on the situation we live in. So also morality change based on the context. This point of view clearly explain how context affect whole human decision, whole human behavior. So the subjective perception of the context by the top manager, the decision maker, is a critical point in determining firm survival. But at this point, the critical question is, what are the inputs, the stimuli that the context provides to firms? At a very general level, we can find the United Nations with the 17 development goals. These goals are a call for action for countries, but some of them are relevant for firms. For example, the number 8, the number 11, the number 12. So they push firms to be sustainable in their activities. Also, looking at morality, the study of philosophers, in particular philosophers of the ancient Greece, explain us what morality means. And religious play a big role to explain what is considered moral or immoral. For example, if we look at the Catholic Church, we can see how in the last 30 years old, the Catholic Church looked at the firm role. The Catholic Church recognized the role of profit, but time by time had enlarged the goals assigned to the firm. So the firm has not only the goals of profit, but has other goals. If we look at the encyclical of John Paul II and Benedict XVI, we can recognize how the church assigned to the firm a social role in line with the social responsibility theory. And the last Pope Francis identified in the firm the link between the firm, the business, and the territory. And he highlight this link in a very strong way. Also, at a general level, last August, there was an important event, Business Roundtable. Business Roundtable is the largest American association with the main, the big corporation. If we look at some data, this corporation employ 50 million employees, give more than 8 billion in charitable contribution, invest annually nearly 147 billion in research and development, pay more than 296 billion in dividends. So the Business Roundtable announced the release of a new statement of the purpose of a corporation signed by 181 CEOs of the largest American corporation. And they affirm the need to rethink the purpose of a corporation. And they commit to lead their companies for the benefit of all stakeholders, customers, employees, suppliers, communities, and shareholders. So the purpose of a corporation is changing. And the question is, why did they change their mind? Probably the context is changing and they understand it. Another example is by BlackRock. Last January, BlackRock is the world's largest asset manager with 7.4 trillion in assets under management at the last of 2019. And in January, in his letter to the CEOs and to the clients, Larry Fink announced the reallocation of investment by BlackRock in consideration of the sustainability of the companies. And BlackRock affirmed that it will be increasingly disposed to vote against management on board directors when companies are not making sufficient progress on sustainability. So sustainability seems increasingly central in the management of firm. So from the context, we can summarize as the context is changing, but probably context provide many stimuli that push toward the search for sustainability in the various aspects of business management. And the Human Entrepreneurship framework that in a few minutes Massimiliano will explain more in depth, allow us to grasp these stimuli and to synthesize in a framework these different aspects to be considered in the definition of the strategy, of the strategic posture of the firm. So I give the speech to Massimiliano to explain the model and the point of the research about the definition of a measurement scales. Okay. Massimiliano?
Hi, Antonio, please don't share your screen. Hi, everybody.
Okay.
It's a great pleasure to be here and a great honor to be part of this great family that is that JICSB is. So going on and starting with this the last slide of this for this night. As Roberto said in his presentation, presenting the main characteristic of human entrepreneurship, we decided to propose one model. I want to immediately clarify that you can find in the reality not only one model, because human entrepreneurship is a stereotype, and we can find in reality a lot of an ideal type, a lot of different models. This is the model that we present in an academic journal, and the journal was More Business Management. And in this model, we proposed that the center of human entrepreneurship is a new strategic posture that is human entrepreneurial orientation. And human entrepreneurial orientation is formed by three types of orientation that are entrepreneurial orientation, sustainability orientation, and human resource orientation. These are the basic components of the new strategic posture and the enlarged strategic posture that we posit at the center of our model, that is human entrepreneurial orientation. What is entrepreneurial orientation? The entrepreneurial orientation represents exactly what Covenant-Levin proposed in terms of proactiveness, innovativeness, and taking risks. Sustainability orientation represents the orientation that a firm has towards environment, towards ethic, towards a local community. And lastly, human resource orientation represents how the firms involves, transforms his strategic activities, use his strategic activities to involve human resources to develop his business. So, which are the human entrepreneurial orientation main characteristics? As Roberto said, and as Antonio confirmed, human entrepreneurial orientation is a strategic posture. The strategic posture of a firm represents a firm overall competitive orientation. The posture demonstrates an attitude that you have towards something, putting at the center of the concept of a position. The orientation introduces a dynamic dimension by referring to the action or activities while incorporating also a psychological dimension. So human entrepreneurial orientation is both behavioral and attitudinal. We want to measure human entrepreneurial orientation at measurement level. We want to measure at firm level. And we want to measure the three components that are entrepreneurial orientation, sustainable orientation, and resource orientation. From a theoretical point of view, human entrepreneurial orientation is strongly built on the conceptualization proposed by Covenant-Levin of entrepreneurial orientation. So the three human entrepreneurial orientation components not necessarily should have been present in the firm at the same time. But human entrepreneurial orientation requires the contemporary presence of the three concepts to some extent. At this moment, in our research activities, we are involved, we are fighting with the measurement issues of human entrepreneurial orientation. We are developing the measurement scale of human entrepreneurial orientation and adopting the methodology proposed by Churchill and Diamantopoulos. We are more or less at the end of the stage one. We have specified the domain and dimensionality of the construct. we have generated the sample items and we assessed content validity, adding and deleting and modifying items. Now we are passing to stage 2, and then we have the goal to arrive in stage 3 at the end of July, because now we have the need to demonstrate the existence, the theoretical and the academical existence of human entrepreneurial orientation. At the moment, we can demonstrate the existence of human orientation in some cases that we have looked for in Italy, but there are a lot of cases, as Roberto said, also in Asia, in Europe, everywhere in the world. I want just to share with you an important Italian firm, an important Italian group that is Loccioni Group. Loccioni Group is a firm that started more or less 30 years ago, 25 years ago, and his core business was represented by the testing of dishwashers and washing machines. Loccioni Group works in the business of total quality, in testing the quality of the product. Loccioni Group has a lot of important customers like Ferrari, like Volkswagen, and so on. In fact, you can see that Loccioni is also a world leader on testing fuel injectors. The most important things that I want to underline in this moment is that human resources comes from selection. In Loccioni comes from selections from selection processes that Loccioni does while kids are in the school. Loccioni will also create an incubator. Personal development of employees is a fundamental challenge for Loccioni, and the plant is the center of the local community in Loccioni. I visited with Roberto and Antonio this plant. I remained astonished for the care and for the heart that Mr. Loccioni, the entrepreneur of this great group, poses inside the plant, inside his firm. I want to try to share with you this small video that is public, is on YouTube, that demonstrates how a big firm with a great with great revenues can interpret what we are now presenting, that is human entrepreneurship. Wait just a minute. Did you hear music?
You have to share the screen of the video because you're only on the screen of the PowerPoint, so you have to switch to that screen.
You didn't see? Wait a minute.
No, Massimiliano, we see you.
Wait a minute, please. Here, I'm going to share.
Okay.
Thanks. Now. Are you watching the video or not? Antonio?
Yes, but there are some problem with the audio.
With audio?
The audio is very low.
Wait.
Again, try again. Okay, maybe better. Okay, now let me know.
So, coming back to, and before, you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, it's absolutely true. You can have, if you are an employee of Loccioni, you can have fun with your family, or you can have fun because you are an inhabitant of the small village where Loccioni is located. You can share everything in this plant. And the old man that sometimes you have the opportunity to have a look in the video is Mr. Loccioni. It is a man that puts human being at the center of his work. Thank you very much. And Roberto, the floor is yours.
Okay, just it's quite difficult to try to explain in a very short time. I'm trying to share my screen, but I hope that will be able to share. Can you see my screen? The presentation?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. So I was saying it's you can someone has to
È un webinar in americano, mi ha invitato a seguirla.
someone has to
Dai coreani, non ci capite che convinto.
someone has to mute the hey man, can you mute the audio? Okay, so it's difficult to explain a very complex, very sophisticated, yet very interesting case of humane entrepreneurship that Loccioni is. We have had the opportunity to have in-depth interview and visiting the factory together with Massimiliano and Antonio, and of course we were very astonished about how the case of Loccioni, but I can quote many other cases in Italy, I'm sure in many other countries, of a company that is exactly, or let me say, it looks like a real humane entrepreneurship case. So a company that is very high innovative. Loccioni works with the biggest technology company from Bosch to BMW to Siemens and many others, and at the same time to be a very active part of local community. And they gave real economic and social welfare of an area that is a rural area, just in the heart of Italy, the very center of Italy, very far from big city and from big opportunity. And at the same time, a kind of organization. We have had the opportunity to study in depth the organizational practice that they apply in their firm, and it's simply great capability that they have to make every one of his 450 people just in the headquarters of Loccioni to be a unique team. So there are no workers, there are only people that are part of an organization that works in harmony between them, and very high tech, high challenging kind of research project. So that's just to give you some more details about the Loccioni, but that is a world-known best case of company. So just to close, to have a final close to our session, it was quite a long session. I hope that notwithstanding the problems of communication, of course, we are located in our house. Of course, you know about the lockdown, and I think, I suspect that many of us all around the world are in the same situation, connecting by home, in our house through the phone connection. So it's not easy. But just to have a final short comment, I would encourage you to go into the call for JICSB special issue on Humane Entrepreneurship. I'm very honored to be co-guest with my dear friend, Professor Kicha Kim. I see that Professor Kicha Kim is into the audience. Greetings, Kicha. I'm very glad to have you with us. And I would say that Humane Entrepreneurship, without the leadership of Professor Kicha Kim, will not be here. We will not be discussing about Humane Entrepreneurship without the visionary leadership of Professor Kicha Kim. And then Professor Alex Nobel and Professor Jeffrey Orsby, they gladly accept to be part of the game, and they will be co-host of co-editor of Humane Entrepreneurship. More info about Humane Entrepreneurship special issue you can find on the website of ICSB, icsb.org/special issue. You can find a lot of information about deadlines, about the research topics. There's a short description of the many potential angle of interest. Let me close just with a final observation, because of course Humane Entrepreneurship is a very new concept, and so apart our small group, myself, my group, Professor Kishan group, Payman, and some other people that were just from the first cohort of researchers that were attracted by this concept. But I'm sure that there are a lot of potential connection. And so, of course, firm level is our chosen field of action. But I'm sure that there are many other fields of research that could be connected. They should be connected with the Humane Entrepreneurship as a strategic posture of the firm. For example, just to share my view about this, there is a subjective level, the level of the entrepreneur. There is, of course, behind the firm, there is an entrepreneur. We are looking especially for small and medium-sized kind of company. And so the level of the entrepreneur is motivation to start a business of this kind with this approach. The antecedent of his approach to run the business in this way, the role of society and local culture. And I know that there are some concepts that are emerging as a hot topic in our field of entrepreneurship. Civic entrepreneur, ethics in management are very well known stream of research to refer to. And then there is a third level, that is the macroeconomic level, and all the researchers and the scholars that are interested in macroeconomic perspective about incentives and public rules that can help Humane Entrepreneurship orientation to become more and more wide adopted kind of strategic posture. So I think that there are a lot of space to cooperate toward the development of this subject, and my warm invitation to every one of you to be to try to be a little bit more familiar with the concept of humane entrepreneurship and to consider to apply for the special issue. Thank you, Ayman. Thank you for everyone, and of course, Ayman, the floor is
Great. Thank you very much, everybody here for this. So we have some time here. We have about 20 minutes here. So what I'd like to do is ask the attendees here that all are joining here to post their questions in the questions section here, and I'll ask them to the panelists as well, and then we can have a discussion as well. So let me start, Roberto, let me start with this question for you first of all, and we can open it up to the other panelists as well here. And this comes from Arturo here. And the question is a good question. It actually gets to the heart of the element here. He goes, do you think that humane entrepreneurship should consider elements such as compassion, empathy, and a learning attitude and mindset, humility, as elements of your framework at this conjuncture of COVID-19? What do you think, Professor Roberto?
I think that, for sure, empathy and all the other values that you mentioned are strictly connected with the concept of human entrepreneurship. But there is another question I understand in your comment. So the question, if I understood well, is COVID-19 can push forward to the development of an approach like humane entrepreneurship. I hope in some sense I would say yes, but you know what I think about. The future is in our hand. It's not written on the paper, it's written on the water. So it's up to us and all of us to make the future better than now. I hope, yes, I think that COVID-19 is giving in some way a real opportunity to humanity to think about the way we should stay together and stay together into this world, into the nature. We are part of the nature. We are not over the nature. We are part of the nature. So my guess is yes.
The question comes back again to the fundamental thing, which is the title here. And the question goes like this: how do you really differentiate between social entrepreneurship and humane entrepreneurship? I know we went into the elements and the factors, but just from a conversational standpoint, if we're sitting down and saying, tell me, what's the difference? So how would you answer this?
My answer is that there are two concepts that goes hands to hands, but they are different in some way. So they are overlapping in some way, but there are some differences. Humane entrepreneurship in our vision is a much broader perspective. Social entrepreneurship and social innovation is different in many ways compared from the methodological and theoretical point of view with respect to humane entrepreneurship. But of course, there are there are a lot of connection between them. But humane entrepreneurship is a model that is proposed to the overall economic system. It's something more generalized than social entrepreneurship stricto sensu. This is my opinion.
Okay, so let me take this a little bit here to a little bit to more granular level here. Let's say you start a company, okay? You're starting a company, and you're saying to yourself, this company I'm going to start for profit. The whole idea is to make money. Yeah. And yet we have a whole new generation of individuals coming in here saying, no, I'm going to start a company that has a social cause. Okay, it's not for profit, it's for social cause, right? Then another person will come in and say, I want to start a company that's humane. What does that look like? What is a humane company or humane entrepreneurial company?
Is a company that is capable to be competitive, to be innovative, to make profit, of course, and at the same time to have a different imprint on society and on the way the company deals with all stakeholders. It's not shareholder. I think that one of the key concepts is the differentiation between shareholder and stakeholder. Of course, this is it's a vexata question, it's something that is very well known. So I would say that this humane entrepreneurship is something that is capable to bring together all stakeholders, including, of course, shareholder.
So saying this, basically we're going back to the concept number one, which is a company that is for profit, that has, but is also doing social good. So it's a mixture of both, but underlying what you just told me here has a humane aspect to it, which is it's for humanity, which goes back to what Arturo was mentioning about adding compassion and empathy and I guess patience as well. So how do we identify these companies?
How to identify it's called, I think that we see the video of Loccioni, the quality, of course, of the video was not good. So my idea is that when you see, you understand. When you see Loccioni, Cucinelli, and many others, you will recognize empirically. But of course, this is not enough. So our efforts now, as Massimiliano was saying, is to try to define a scale measurement system to try to connect, that is, in our opinion, step to measure to reach the level of connecting strategic posture with performance. Performance is in a much broader sense. So you recognize when you see, but in order to be theoretically grounded, you need, of course, to use the scientific methods. And so you have to try to define a measurement scale that is really a linking point, a very important, very central point in our development. So to answer to this, from empirically to theoretically, there is a lot of work to be done.
Okay, so saying this, here comes the twist here. This is coming from Moses here. What about companies that show CSR, corporate social responsibility? You know, do we really need a CSR department to show that you are humane?
I know that of course there are, as I said before, humane intervention is a new concept, new theory, so we are struggling to define and to differentiate ourselves. So it's not tabula rasa, of course. Social entrepreneurship, corporate social responsibility, of course, is another concept that is very close to humane entrepreneurship. But according to the general meeting of corporate social responsibility, in my opinion, corporate social responsibility is something more related to ex post behavior of the company. In some sense, through corporate social responsibility, you communicate with the stakeholder and try to measure your impact on society and to take in account the way you try to minimize your impact. So in some sense, customer social responsibility is more defensive. Humane entrepreneurship is much more proactive. I would say this is just, but again, of course, we should try to work together in trying to define and to understand how to connect different concepts. There are a lot of overlapping, of course.
Okay, so here comes the question here. We in the United States and maybe in other parts of the world have developed these type of companies called B Corps or benefit corps and so on. But underlying all these type of corporations, they are for profit. They just register themselves as benefit corporations. How would you define companies that are humane? Do they have to register as humane, or should it just be known that they are humane companies?
To my knowledge, B corporations are probably the most close examples of humane entrepreneurship orientation. But again, B corporation, you can see the label of B corporation. Of course, in some country, I know that B Corp allows you to have some benefit, some incentive. So do you remember the third level of analysis I mentioned? I was thinking exactly about the kind of initiative like B Corporation. So how, the question is how the public entities or the society or specific group of people can recognize a specific value to giving incentive or giving preferences in some way to companies that demonstrate not only speak about human entrepreneurship, but they can demonstrate to be human entrepreneurship. I know, for example, that my dear friend Kishan is working very hard with some friends in Asia, especially, and I hope that in Europe and Italy we will be capable to be helpful in this process to have a ISO standard for qualification for human entrepreneurship. That would be a great jump, of course. So I think that this kind of label B Corporation, ICO, human entrepreneurship, 9,000, whatever, would be something that could be helpful, because it's something that could be helpful to expand the process, to fasten the process in some way.
Let me set this precedent. Let me set this example for you, and I just put it in the chat section for everybody to see, and I'll tie it to the question that came up. In the United States, and I think in other parts of Europe, currently most of the bookstores in the United States are closed because of the COVID. So you cannot actually go to a local bookstore or cafe to buy a book. They're all closed. And those small stores, those small bookstores, have no capability of doing e-commerce. They just can't do it, okay? So an entrepreneur creates a website called bookshop.org, in which he creates the e-commerce engine and then tells every bookshop in the area to enter their books and their zip code, okay? And he built through tagging, right, that if you are living in one part of the United States, you enter your zip code and you find the local bookstore next to you, 1 mile away, 2 kilometers away, and you can buy books directly from the bookstore that is closed, that is small business. His proposal is that he wants 1% of all Amazon sales, and he gives back to every bookshop 40% of the margins, which is a lot. He started this before COVID-19. He was making about 30,000 or 40,000 a day in sales. Today, he's reaching about close to $800,000 in sales a day. What's your reaction to this?
My reaction to this is that we need cases like this. I'm not in favor to the Amazon model. I'm not sure that Amazon could ever be a sort of humane kind of company. I'm not sure. This is why I think that it's good that our focus in this moment in time is much more related to the small, medium-sized kind of dimension. And it's not a case that this concept of human entrepreneurship has been developed inside JICSB. JICSB, that stands for small business. We are here because we are involved and interested in the phenomena of new companies, startups, maybe small company that of course as a part of life cycle, or as a strategic choice of a family business, of course. So Loccioni and Cucinelli kind of cases. So I'm not sure that the concept of human entrepreneurship could be expanded automatically to big corporation like Amazon. I'm not sure that, I'm not saying that is not possible. I think that is something that needs a more carefully scrutiny.
Which takes me back to the special issue, right? For instance, there's two examples here. One's coming from Desiree saying, it sounds to me that social entrepreneurship is a sub-component of humane entrepreneurship, because social entrepreneurship helps society, but may not focus on employees.
Exactly, or on profit.
which seems more all-encompassing. Does this seem logical to the panelists? And I think Desiree, you're getting the nodding here on it. And then you got Rosella saying, I have a case study of a social firm employing disadvantaged people from the community in a for-profit activity. So you have a combination of both. According to Humane Entrepreneurship, I see here the social sustainability, entrepreneurial orientation, and humane orientation can come together. Is that correct? Is that the concept behind it?
Yes, is it correct? Okay. Massimiliano Antonio could be helpful in this way, but I think yes, yeah, definitely yes.
So then tell me again about the special issue. What are you looking for this special issue? Are you looking for research papers and potentially maybe even case studies for JICSB that cover these topics? Because this is a fundamental webinar that starts to have this conversation.
Yeah, of course. Research paper will be fine. Qualitative studies, quantitative and qualitative studies are of course welcome. Case-based, of course, rigorously developed from the methodological point of view that can be setting future agenda. Of course, this is a very new concept. It's something that we should feel as a common adventure, a common startup in some sense. So we should start to dig into the field, to try to dig into the arena of this new reality of companies, especially I would say small and medium-sized kind of company that are able to be successful from all these three levels, but moreover, they are capable to sustain each level with the other. So it's something that is an integration, the capability to integrate in just one business model or firm model that is capable to sustain innovation through care for human resource orientation and to sustain it with society orientation. Think about the kind of impact that has on competition. For example, the concept of being, for example, in cosmetic, for companies that are able to sell products that can say test-free animals, for example, or bio or ethical work is inside, or no original rainforest has been cut for this kind of product. There's a plethora of examples around us. So we should try to work together to put these things together, and maybe time by time our intuition will become something more strong.
So I have one last point and then we'll wrap it up because we're getting close to it.
This
comes from Mario, because I'm currently working on a humane entrepreneurship concept, trying to apply it to startups, which is really fascinating, looking at it from a startup. We know that most of our new firms die in post-entry phase. The only few of them, 3 to 4%, generate most of the jobs that actually grow, which we call also the gazelles.
Yeah.
Do you think that these startups can be intriguing set of firms where humane entrepreneurship is more likely to be found, which is a fascinating study to see if we can identify them as early on to see the likelihood of survival, if they are just for profit or social enterprise, or their origins are more of a humane entrepreneurial firm. What's your reaction to this question?
Yes, I think that that startups and startupper are very interesting set for research into the field of human entrepreneurship. I suspect that many of these new companies, they start from the beginning with this approach in mind. I'm very optimistic about new generation people, young people, and as we know, not only, but many of these startups are made up by young people. So I'm quite optimistic from this point of view.
Roberto, this has been fascinating. We're at 5 o'clock now, so we're getting to the stage here. But what I'd like to do is go around, and I'll give you the last words, but let me go around first and ask Antonio and then Massimiliano to kind of the last comments they want to share about this topic. And currently, where are we moving forward with this? What do you think the future is with this? So let me start with Antonio first. Antonio, comments, the last comments about how do you see humane entrepreneurship and us moving forward?
Antonio, hai muto? Togli il muto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think that at this point of the research, it is necessary to develop a measurement scale to define more strictly what we think that human entrepreneurship is. And I read a lot of questions in the by the that attended at this webinar, and probably the critical point is to have a measurement scale to define more strictly human entrepreneurship orientation, and then to give to the framework a more substance of the framework. So I think that to try to develop a measurement scale is the next step for the research.
Thank you, thank you. And then we go to Massimiliano, your thoughts, your final thoughts?
Do you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Just a few words. We arrived at a very final point in the global economy with the old way to think to entrepreneurship. I guess that after COVID-19, we will have a lot of space for a lot of human entrepreneurship all over the world.
Thank you very much. Roberto, the floor is yours with last comments, what you want to see out of this, and also maybe about the invitation again for the special issue.
Oh, again, my thank you to all the panelists that will be with us tonight, at least with Italian time. It has been a long discussion, a lot of questions, and I hope that question posed by panelists are very stimulating. My hope is that you will have a look to the special call, and then hopefully you will join us in this common work on the future development of humane entrepreneurship concept. And I'm sure that with Eamon, Kishan, and all our friends, we will continue to talk about, and I'm sure we will have more opportunity to go into this concept and to further develop it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This has been an exceptional webinar here. I think we are onto something big here. I think 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when this concept of humane entrepreneurship started, people asked us, why are you even bothering with this? The world is not like this. And today, everybody's looking at the world that as you mentioned, Roberto, it's that nature has scored one goal and technology is zero. And nature has stopped the world. And we go back to humanity here, and humanity is very critical. So humane entrepreneurship might be the new normal moving forward. Maybe nobody knows how to define it clearly here, but everybody can see it and feel it and say and taste it and sense it here. So this is the job of academics, researchers, policymakers, as you mentioned, to move this concept forward. I know in particular the United Nations have used it in their taxonomy, they have used it in their reports. I know a lot of organizations are starting to use this word to make sure that people understand that humanity comes first. Saying this, I want to thank all the panelists for joining us here. This has been an exceptional panelist. And I want to also invite everybody tomorrow as we focus on humanity, but we focus on the youth. And we have a webinar tomorrow, same time, 4 p.m., Entrepreneurship and the Youth of Egypt, a global best practice. I want to thank you all again for everybody joining us here. Have a safe evening, and I hope to see you all in person again. Take care, everybody.
Buonanotte.
Thank you, Eamon. Thank you to
Buonanotte.
from
Good
Italy.
evening.